Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special bonus crossover episode of the Cinematic Schematic podcast, the official podcast of the Cinematropolis.com and the deadCenter podcast. I'm Caleb Masters, the host of the Cinematic Schematic, an official media partner for the deadCenter Film Festival in 2024.
And I'm Nick Hodge, host of the deadCenter podcast.
And in today's episode, we'll talk with a couple of members of the deadCenter programming team about what you can expect from this year's festival. That's right, listeners. That runs from June 6th through the 9th. That is this Thursday, by the way.
Yeah, it's coming up, and we're excited for Oklahoma's biggest film festival, and it's right around the corner, and you can get your tickets now at deadcenterfilm.org.
Awesome. Well, hey, Nick, I'm really excited to be doing this nifty collaboration. You've been doing the deadCenter podcast for, 9 months now?
Yeah, a handful of months. Yeah, was doing a podcast. If anyone remembers the Simply Indie Film Festival, they moved to New York, and I was doing a film podcast with them. That was really fun. And when they moved, I was like, I got to keep this rolling. So then got with deadCenter, and here we are.
Yeah, super cool. Well, you're doing an amazing job telling the stories of filmmakers on the deadCenter podcast. I'm super excited about this collaboration. And also, it's going to be great to have another podcaster in the press room this year.
Yeah. We were talking about the media approach for this year, and Caleb was giving me the lowdown. And so now we can have a good double angle to it. So
yeah, of course. Well, hey, again, just listeners, a quick sneak peek about what you can expect here on this special crossover episode. So at the Cinematropolis, as I mentioned a moment ago, we're one of the deadCenter Film Festival's media partners, and our goal is to inspire, promote, and celebrate creativity and community at the festival and year-round in partnership. So ways you can engage with the Cinematropolis during the film festival is you can head to the Cinematropolis.com, and you're going to be able to read a number of written essays from an amazing team of Oklahoma's top film critics. And if you subscribe to the Cinematic Schematic podcast, you'll be able to hear in-depth conversations with filmmakers throughout the festival, starting with this episode every day this week.
And for the deadCenter podcast, just stay tuned. We're going to change up the schedule a little bit since we'll be putting out more episodes. So just stay tuned to the deadCenter Instagram. And I think we might have a fun video element planned to come out on something to be announced at some point. So stay tuned for that.
Awesome. Well, enough with the formalities, Nick. I'll stop making both of us read a script at this point. Let's introduce our pair of very special guests today. These are two members of the deadCenter programming team. So first up, he is the head of Pride Programming, also my regular co-host on the Cinematic Schematic, Laron Chapman. Laron, welcome.
It's nice to be here in a new hat. Not an actual new hat, because I'm wearing my Scream hat, but, an actual proverbial hat.
Nick, you want to introduce our next guest?
Yeah, and we also have Kevin Ely with us, the senior features programmer at deadCenter. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. We're taking a little bit of a breath. Everything's sort of locked in. It's the calm before the beautiful storm of deadCenter.
The perfect storm.
The perfect storm.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's mere hour. I mean, at this point, you could say mere hours away.
Oh, we could say, but maybe don't say.
We could say that.
So listeners, a few different things we're going to cover today with this pair of special guests. First up, we're going to talk about what you can expect at deadCenter in terms of the experience. And then we'll talk, secondly, about the film. So what are some of the films you should consider or things you should consider about building your schedule? And then lastly, we'll just end on some tips for newcomers, because going to a film festival, there's a lot of things you might not realize you don't know until you're there. So with that said, I want to turn to you first, Kevin. Simple question, softball question. Where will the festival be located this year?
Okay. Well, the short answer is downtown Oklahoma City. But there's multiple venues you can go to. The sort of home base, the place to probably see the most options for films would be the Harkins. They've been a great host for the festival for several years. I couldn't even count, probably more than 10. And they're sort of the hub where there's multiple screenings going on. So you could conceivably do the whole festival just there. But the Museum of Art, in their theater is some of our key, what we call centerpiece screenings are going to be there. The First Americans Museum is a new, they hosted some special screenings in the past, but they're sort of an official venue now. And then as far as screenings, let's see, there's stuff at the Rodeo as well, right?
Rodeo Cinema, Film Row, downtown.
So they're all within, if you're a city folk, you could probably walk it all.
Yeah, most of it. Yeah, for sure.
But we're taking advantage of our new and improved public transit system. But then there's great parties and stuff.
How often have you guys actually used the train, the trolley?
I've had dreams about it.
Okay, cool. Exactly.
use
That's what I thought.
I use both.
I
of
don't
them
know
in the
anyone
open.
that uses it, yet it's always in my way when I'm trying to get around. So.
There's a rapid transit stop right by my neighborhood, but it's like 3 blocks to walk to it, and I'm like, I'll just drive.
Exactly. But
I
you know what?
love that it exists, though.
It's such an Oklahoma City answer, though.
Absolutely.
It's like 3 blocks. I'll just drive.
I'll just drive.
I've never
right on.
used it, but it honked at me once. So.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I think I live 3/4 of a mile from
But
where
you
we're
know,
recording right now, and I drove here. So
We have a bustling homeless community, though, that I'm sure appreciates the, you know what I mean, the option.
Yes.
So to get out of the heat, do whatever. So, you know,
We're thankful.
we're thankful.
Yes.
Thank you, James Cooper.
Yes, thank you, James Cooper. You, if you're listening, quick question, just to clarify. So I heard Rodeo Cinema. Did I hear both the Stockyards location and the Film Row location?
I'm not sure there's anything at Stockyards this year. I think it's
just Film Row. Let
think
me
it's just
double
Film
check
Row.
my
Okay.
list here.
Okay.
Yes, I believe it's just Film Row.
Film Row, Rodeo Cinema, in addition to all of the other sort of like centralized theaters right here in the hub of OKC.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Well, shout out all those awesome venues. And we also want to ask you all, so what sets this year's festival apart from previous years? Like, why should people be excited to come to deadCenter this year?
Yes. So I think we have like a wide variety of quality content from all over the country and abroad. We have a diverse collection of different perspectives and voices and subjects that I feel like are really timely right now and kind of get to the hearts and minds of what's important to people right now and tapping into the cultural zeitgeist.
Mm.
And I feel like as a programmer, this is my 4th year doing it, I believe. And I think for the first time, like I felt like a real big an increase in collaboration, because I think that I've kind of lived in my little bubble in the corner, you know, and I felt like this year I really did engage, and we did a lot more in-depth, you know, meeting with and mining through all of the films and everyone hashing out which ones they think are important, which ones we overlapped with. And so yeah, and also just feeling like we're a little bit more attuned with what audiences are looking for. So I think that this, like more like every year, we're going to give you a wide variety of subjects and things to watch. But it just feels like, you know, everyone at the table has had a voice. And so I feel like, you know, even at our group, we have diversity, you know, so it's nice to just see that growth every year. And so I think there's a garden variety of subjects and content that anyone from any walk of life can find something that they enjoy. So
Love that.
Awesome. Lots of more like synergy in terms of what you guys are all kind of working towards with the programming, which is itself an art form.
And finding our voice as a programming team, because we think about it as we are kind of the tastemakers of the city in a way, because like here we're picking the movies, we're selecting them for people, we're deciding what we think people want to watch. And so we love feedback every year to learn like how we're doing, if we're growing, if things are getting better. You know, because that's the goal every year is just to make the festival better than the last year, you know.
And we have a new, you know, this is Sunrise's, this is a new year, new director of programming. Sunrise was a features programmer. Sarah Thompson was leading the team for several years. We came up together as shorts programmers, and but this is Sunrise's first year to lead programming for it. So it's been interesting to see how just a new voice, because he acts really more, both of them really act more like a facilitator of programming than like, you know, so you wouldn't expect him to be like, this is my taste, these movies I want in. But it's been interesting to see how the conversation changes a little bit just by having someone else in the seat. So it's kind of just feels like a fresh take on the programming slate.
Yes, and Funrise is great. He was my screenwriting professor in college, as well as introduced me to a lot of independent films with his American Independent Cinema as an elective course. And he's just so worldly and knowledgeable about film and just the trade of the art, like he's an artist himself, you know, he knows the business side of it. So he just comes from it with a very holistic view of film. He loves cinema, you know, and so it's, you know, his perspective is just invaluable to all of us, you know, whenever we're going through this process. So he's not involved in the process of some of the people.
He knows like everybody.
He just nudges a little bit sometimes, you know, like so.
But he'll be like, oh, I'm interested in looking at this one. I've seen that Gaffer's work before, and I'm interested to see what they do next. You know,
like he knows the Gaffer
you know
on
the
a random video.
You know,
This person is related to this other guy that you might have heard of.
right.
Which is
this
what
guy
makes
was
it
associate producer on this other movie I liked, and I'm interested to see the
Which
work
is
they
why
do.
you should watch this movie tonight.
Right.
No, that's super cool. Well, I mean, I think you guys are, and I've been saying this for a long time, but you guys are an outstanding team, and it's, maybe Sunrise is new, stepping into that leadership role, but you're really looking at it's a changing chemistry. So that means things evolve, things change a little bit, but same great kind of guiding principles that you guys have had through the festival.
He brings a professorial demeanor to it, which makes sense because he was a professor for many years. So,
well, very cool. I know I'm very excited to see the things you guys have picked for us. You guys always pick a huge selection of great movies. Before we get to the movies, though, I do have to ask, because I heard the word party a few minutes ago. I want to circle back to that. So party going and networking, I know, are always highlights of the festival for many attendees. So Laron, I'll turn it to you here. I mean, what can attendees expect related to that party scene?
Yeah, I think to kick things off, pass holders will want to attend our opening night party, which will be held at the Oklahoma City Museum of Art on the rooftop from 5 to 8 p.m. It's always a great time. Obviously, it gives you a great view of the city. And also, it's, as we mentioned, the calm before the perfect storm. It's a good way to kind of like see what everyone else is going to be going to, what they're all excited about, and kind of get your if you haven't got your schedule together by that point, shame on you. But also, if you haven't, here's a great time to figure out like where everyone's going to be and what they're going and what's available to you. So it's a nice way to kind of loosen up before things get crazy.
And that's also one of the places where you'll get the first chance to meet visiting filmmakers, and where the visiting filmmakers will have many of them will have flown in, drop their bags, and go straight to the rooftop. And so they're meeting each other. They're excited to meet each other. You'll get to meet someone before you've even heard the name of their film before.
It just sounds so posh. Like, meet me on the rooftop.
Meet me on the rooftop.
I mean, seriously though, it's you get to see a lot of amazing filmmakers, and maybe their films don't have distribution yet, but I'm thinking I ran into Legeria Davis there last year, and then you have director of Black Barbie, which got picked up by Netflix. So I mean,
coming out later this summer,
I think, which by the way, bookmark that movie. It's a good one. With that said, though, maybe we can move on to talk a little bit more. Actually, Kevin, is there anything you want to add party wise? Any other notes or thoughts?
I mean, there's one every night, and there's happy hours, there's meet and greets, all through the festival. Pretty much, if you can base your, schedule around it. We kind of I kind of make a joke sometimes that like the movies are just there to give you something to talk about at the parties, and so it's scheduled really well to do that, to be able to like meet up at the beginning of the evening, meet some people, have a drink, some snacks, talk about what you're going to do that night, and then run into each other like 6 hours later and be like, so what'd you see? What'd you think? And hang out. So like Friday night, there'll be two parties. There's the Friday night frolic, and then there's a pajama party at the Fordson, the former, I just went blank on the name.
Formerly 21C.
Former 21C.
Yeah.
I started to say Forever 21. Whole different place.
He's thinking about the movie.
Right. And then Saturday night. So every evening will end with a great hangout.
Yeah, so there's also a happy hour at Fordson OKC from 4 to 6 p.m. A great way. We also at deadCenter, obviously it co-aligns with Pride Month, and so we lean into that pretty heavily with the content that we select, and also with some of the eventizing things like this. So it's a cool way to spend 2 hours with some of the filmmakers that made the movies that got selected for the Pride short. So.
Beginning of June, always both the most exciting and busiest time of my summer, at least. Speaking for myself and Laron, I'm sure it's similarly for you. Let's talk more about the movies, though. I mean, what would you say are, and actually, we did get to hear a little bit about what you guys were thinking at this a deadCenter preview event, but maybe for our listeners who were not in attendance, I'll turn to you, Kevin. I mean, what are some of the themes and ideas your team honed in on during the programming?
There were a couple. The one event we talked about the backgrounding of identity in a thing where subjects or characters who something about their identity would be like with something you'd make a movie about in the past, whereas now it's more like they're just in the movie and that's who they are. So there's an Okie film called Haley's Game.
It's the opening night movie.
It's an opening night movie at the Harkins on Thursday evening. And it's an Oklahoma film made by all queer cast, crew thing, but the movie's not about that. It's just who they are. And that was something we picked up on pretty early that felt like a little bit of a shift and it was Laron could speak to this better than me, but like the just programming that program for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Of feeling like the sort of graduated from finally getting to stop
Mm-hmm. Well, which is weird because
talking. I mean, I don't know how to articulate in a way, but like,
well, it's like my role in particular as the head of Pride programming, like the necessity for that implicates there's an issue with representation of that. So I'm hoping that my job gets easier and easier and easier, and it's harder to find content that doesn't feature it or doesn't have it in some capacity in some movies, so that we don't have to have an entire block just dedicated to that subject. And so, but what's really been nice to see this year is that I've been able to pick movies that have queer characters but aren't about queer. Isn't about the subject of the.
It's not trying to
plot.
explain being queer to you.
Exactly. They're just. It's a sci-fi movie. It's a horror movie with queer.
Well,
people.
I hear you, because I know one trope, Laron, you and I have talked about before, is like, for the longest time it seemed like, oh, there's a movie about a gay couple on the screen, and that means one of them is certainly going to die, for example.
Right.
So it's moving away from tropes like that,
Yeah.
where it's just like, hey, these characters just happen to be. It's a story that features. Queer characters, but it's not about the queerness.
Absolutely. Also, adulting was a big one. We noticed a lot of films dealing with people dealing with either arrested development or like the pains of growing up, you know what I mean? And then just that, the existential crisis that we're all going through, especially millennials, is like, you know what I mean? Like it's hard. It's like we're still kids at heart, but the world is really tough. You know what I mean? And it's just dealing with the minutia of those kinds of experiences in comedic and thoughtful ways. Another one that I noticed was like exploitation versus entertainment. You know, we've seen some. I mean, this is a great example for one of the features we have, Citizen Sleuth, dealing with a true crime podcaster who is like having her own journey with her own medium and the validity of it,
and why she's doing
it. And there are two modes to the movie. I will not spoil anything because it is part of the pleasure of the film. But I will say that in general, like, her opinion in one way evolves over time, and it has direct, link to what role she's doing and how it's affecting the people around her. And it's a great examination of the medium in general. It unfolds in the same way as a true crime, documentary would. So it still has that kind of like, ooh, what's the next clue? What's the next thing? So it unfolds that way, and it's very entertaining, but it's also very introspective. And by the end, I was very enlightened by, the conclusions that they come through.
As a podcaster, that one is very high on my list, I must say.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, any other things you guys want to call out?
Well, the last one I think it comes like reconciling with old prejudices, which kind of goes along with Citizen Sleuth. One that both of us kind of collaborated on with the Hail to the Breadsticks is dealing with a father who is a huge fan of the Washington. You see, I'm full of sports references here. The Washington Redskins. Yeah, which was obviously not appropriate now, that's right. But he's so tethered to the iconography of it and
grew up in it. His dad was a super fan.
Yes. I mean, that change was only honestly very recently.
And it's crazy how long that it's been able to sustain with the current environment that we're living in. But it's dealing with him and his son going on a cross-country journey, interviewing Native Americans and people who may take offense to this iconography, and maybe what he's attached himself to isn't necessarily a good thing. Yeah. And the kind of revelations that he comes to from that journey and speaking to people who are directly affected by it. Because for him, he's wearing a T-shirt and the hat, but for them, it might be offensive. So it's a very insightful kind of reconciling of those kinds of biases and prejudice that he might have that he's not even thinking about. And so that's another one of those that I thought seemed to be another theme this year, just dealing with that. But
yeah, that's it. Yeah, that was the flip side of that. The backgrounding was the thing of like things that just take on cultural identity head on like that. And this is, at first glance when that film came across, I was like, well, I'm skeptical of this. This guy was like a former writer on The Simpsons, and he's very funny and a really great storyteller. But I'm like, is a white guy from the Northeast really the right guy to make a movie about the cultural identity of Native Americans and indigenous people in United States pop culture? Like, probably not. But luckily, that's what the movie is about, is how he's not the right guy to do that. And so it's a constant process of him like meeting people and just listening. And he turns the story over, turns the movie over to his kid at sometimes, to let the kid just sort of
who's the one that came up with the question initially. He's like, isn't that racist?
Isn't this racist? Like,
and he's like,
as he looks around his like room worth thousands of dollars of Washington football memorabilia, that he grew up with, like, but because he's also a former writer and producer on The Simpsons, like it's treated in a really smart and hilarious way.
Very satirical, but finds the right.
Every time you think, oh no, this is going to go the wrong way, he pivots and figures out a way to like dance away from
being racist.
From being, yeah, exactly.
It's nice.
There's even times in the movie where he does something and someone's like, that's racist, right? And he's like, crap, like I did it again. Dope.
Well, we'll definitely have to keep an eye out for all those. We also wanted to ask you, because there's several like short film blocks at the festival. What can y'all tell us about your teams, like what you've programmed for each of these blocks?
Well, some of the general shorts that I would like to just bring up that don't necessarily particularly pertain to my block, which I know we'll talk about later, but one of them is in the Okie shorts. It's called All American Terrorist. And it's directed by a good friend of mine who works in the camera department and throughout the many years that I've been doing film here in the state. And just to give you like a brief little look at the synopsis, it's, after the subtle death of his sister, Moses sets out to help in an attempt to restore the balance of his life and protect his family. However, he lands himself in greater danger when he seeks help from the wrong side of the barrel. And so that's keeping things a little bit vague, but it's a very intense documentary. And I think not documentary, short. And I think that it's one that I would like people to go out and see. I think the Okies are normally really well attended. So I don't think this will be an issue for him, but this is one that stood out to me amongst the ones that have come out of our state and people that I know, where I was just really, really impressed with and proud of, this feature, this short debut for this director. So yeah,
there's a few first time filmmakers in the Okie short. We just met recently. The filmmakers of a short in the Okie shorts called Cornered, which is sort of I wouldn't call it sci-fi, but a little bit of like speculative, almost apocalyptic short. But it's just about two women in a shed that where something chaotic and perhaps warlike is happening outside, and you're not really sure what it is. And it's just sort of them coming to terms with the situation and then their relationship with each other. And when I saw it, I thought, well, this is just really great. It's just great short film. It's just you're in a story and you get out. Really well done. And then got to meet these filmmakers, Matea White and Stacey Roselot, and asked them about it. And they were like, oh yeah, we just learned how to make movies on YouTube just like right before we did it. Like we decided to do it and then we learned how to do it. And, and they're in it, they wrote it, produced it, star in it. And you're like, wow, I mean, that's amazing, and that's one of the best things about Okie Shorts is going to see people like, just living miles away from you, just going out there and doing it, man.
Yeah. I always find it's a pretty compelling showcase for the up and coming talent, in terms of people like really trying to cut their teeth, high quality, small productions sort of thing. So I'm always really impressed walking away from the short films. There's usually, these days there's not even a single one. You're always skeptical at blocks, but that one I'm always consistently like, wow, blown away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, that's one of the interesting things about, we talked about at one of our little programming panels we did recently of, helping people understand when you're programming for deadCenter, really any festival, but it's really true for us now, and the big ones, of course, is there are more movies that deserve to be in that can be in.
Absolutely.
And so you're not going to get a loser,
we say no to a lot of
there might be
movies.
Things that don't rub you the right way or something. You're like, oh, that was unpleasant, or, I didn't agree with that or whatever, or may provoke you or something, but like, they're all going to be good. They're all going to be well made.
Yeah, absolutely.
One that also stood out to me is called The Word, and it's going to be in the comedy shorts block.
Nice.
Now, this one, we went back and forth on because it's provocative. But then after we were like, we've been talking about this for 30 minutes. What do you think they're gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, so it made sense. But just to give you a brief synopsis here, white billionaires offer African Americans reparations for slavery in exchange of being able to say the N-word.
Wow.
So there you go. If that premise alone is not, where is that going to go?
Yeah.
It's exactly what you think, and it's also not exactly what you think. So
it's an M. Night Shyamalan movie. If that's the premise, I can't wait to see where the movie goes.
Sounds like an episode of Atlanta.
It's in the comedy shorts, so that means there's some humor here, and it is very funny. I cannot stress enough how funny it is. But it's a very intense conversation about who can and cannot say that word and why not. And I think that it finds a very creative way around being provocative without being offensive, but still making a good point about it. So I recommend people go to Comedy Shorts to see that one.
Again, like you were saying, Kevin, the shorts blocks are always consistently like outstanding. I know my writers who cover it, Chris Schultz, Daniel Bokemper, Joe Light, they all cover at least one block, and they're always like, wow, blown away, like every time.
Some might say Oscar qualifying.
Ooh, that's right. Oscar qualifying short films at deadCenter. Well, Laron, I mean, with June being Pride Month, also, as you mentioned a moment ago, I imagine, and we've already mentioned Katie Hightower's movie,
Haley's Game.
Which I also want to say that's also a first-time feature filmmaker, which I thought was incredible after watching.
Making her world premiere here, which is really, really amazing. So
I'm super excited to check that one out. Now, but I imagine there are several other, queer LGBTQ IA plus films weaved into several blocks of programming, including the shorts and the features. What are a few of the highlights maybe listeners should keep an eye on?
One I want to point out, too, that I haven't talked about enough, that I programmed. It's not in one of my blocks, oddly enough, but we did find a room for it in the coming of age block. It's called Scraps. It's from director Ryan Norden, and it's a tale of summer romance about two closeted teen skateboarders, exploring their begrudging identities in rural Montana. And it has, if you're familiar with the Netflix hit show now, Heartstopper, which is a big hit, it has that kind of nostalgic early aughts vibes. It's shot on film, so it feels very much a product of that time, but it's not. And it's just dealing with the everyday nuances, very wholesome. This is could even be family friendly, I would say, but one of those ones where it's like, we need films that also speak to like the youth, the queer youth, and so this actually is like one that you could show to anybody that wouldn't offend anybody, and or be too mature, I should say, for anyone to view, that I really enjoyed. So that's one for sure. And then for the late night crowd.
All right, now here's
for the people who were like, leave me out of that.
Leave me out of that noise.
Did you say family friendly?
Family friendly? What do you mean? No, one that really stuck with us that we put in a couple of blocks, actually. It's called Bath Bomb. Now this one is provocative and
just watched this the other night.
Stomach churning is well, I'll put it. And just brief synopsis. An unfaithful, self-involved boyfriend learns that revenge is a dish best served with frothy bubbles. So that's all I'll say. I don't know what that means to you, but you have to go. I'm
getting a lot of vivid,
whatever
not
it means
good
to
imagery.
you. It's more than that.
It's more, whatever you think it is, it's 10 times worse than that. But it is, it's definitely, it's one of those ones where this is one that doesn't necessarily have to be in a queer block. We also put it in the horror films block because it's also just a slasher movie, or so that it works in both of those. So there's 4 opportunities to see this one. So at the horror blocks, and then also in a block that I curated, the bodies shorts block. So definitely check out one of those. So but yeah.
I have to ask a question. I know we're going to move on to narrative or just features, narrative and doc features here in a second. But you've mentioned a lot of different shorts blocks names. And one thing I'd be remiss if we didn't ask about, you guys have super unique naming conventions for all your blocks. I know we were talking about previously at some point, Laron, about how at other film festivals, it's literally just like sure, it's block 1, block 2, and it's like
narrative block 2. Yeah.
What am I going to get?
Yeah. What's the difference between 2 and 3? You know, you just kind of go in and I've always found that frustrating as a festival goer who enjoys it, going to festivals. There's a certain level of mystique going in just blindly and then being surprised, but there's also like so much that you want to see. So you don't want to go in and feel like you went to something that you didn't want to put your energy toward when you could have done something else. And so we kind of do the work for you in that regard by basically mining through all of the films and finding themes that kind of come up from them, and then basically building blocks around those themes. And so bodies came to me, obviously, because the movie just came out recently, but also because all of these movies in this block are dealing with, you know, different forms, different parts of the human form as the subject of the movie. And I thought that was interesting that there were movies just exploring the body and all of its complexities, and whether it's a horror movie, whether it's for pleasure, whether it's for something, you know, it's just lots of different body dysmorphia, not liking your body, you know, like so we find these themes every year, and that's the exciting part of our jobs every year, is just that we never know what crop of movies we're going to get and what's going to be on the hearts and minds of people. And so we let them kind of speak to us, and then we build those fun titles for it. And so some of the ones we have, Bodies. The other one I have is Living Out Loud shorts, the Sugar and Spice shorts, Rebellious shorts, you know. And the thing is,
there's one called Portals.
That's
just like
Portals.
Like,
yeah, just
transport you somewhere else.
It could be like another world. It could just be another perspective, but it's just, you know, getting to see something that's probably outside your own experience. Love, Sex, and Death is one that has been in every year, I think, since I was a shorts programmer in 2011.
Oh, wow.
It's a great nice thing about Love, Sex, and Death is, you know, you can put just about any kind of movie in there.
It covers a lot of bases.
Covers a lot.
Because, and I think that's the slogan for it. It was like, well, 3 things are certain in life.
Right.
So, you know, so we got a movie for each of those experiences. So
that's great. Well, while we're talking about highlights, Kevin, can you kind of talk about a couple notable films that will only be playing once that listeners should make sure to check out so they don't miss it?
Oh, yeah. Let me consult my schedule just to make sure. So one of the ones I'm really excited about is the opening night film at the Art Museum on Thursday evening. And it's called Le Singla, and it's a documentary. It's French, I believe. And it is about a search for the story of a flamenco dancer from the 1960s, I believe, called, her name was Antonia La Singla, and she was just known as La Singla. And she was this sort of like flash paper phenomenon of the flamenco scene, who came out of Spain and grew a lot of fame and sort of became like a hipster phenomenon in Europe. The jazz crowd all loved her and everything. She was this amazing, expressive flamenco dancer. When you see the footage of the film of her dancing, or if you just type La Singla into YouTube, you can see clips of her, and you will want to know her story. Because she's not just an amazing dancer, but her face, like, there's a story there. And so the movie is, what is that story? And this is not spoiling anything. It's part of the premise of the film. One of the things that was most interesting about her is she couldn't hear. She was deaf. But she was this amazing flamenco dancer who could not hear the music she was dancing to. And she did it by watching cues and by feeling the percussion in her feet. And so then a lot of times what she would start to take over the performance, where basically what happens is she becomes the musical director with her dance, and the band would follow, the flamenco musicians would follow along with her. And her story is just incredible. It's a really great, like, investigative documentary. It's also just amazing if you're interested in dance at all.
Yeah.
I think for the,
I was very, very, very riveted by it. I remember, and also just one of those stories where it's like, you don't know this incredible performer, so many people don't know.
Right.
And so really, like, anyone watching is going to get a treat, because it's like, you'll immediately want to know more about this person.
Yeah. It's kind of, if you remember, there was a movie several years ago called Searching for Sugar Man.
Yes.
It was the Oscar winner documentary. It's a little bit along the lines of that, of like, here's this person who may have been the greatest of what they did at a certain time, and yet no one knows who they are. And so it's like going to find out the story of that person. That's a great one. The other, just focusing on opening night, we have our first ever program that includes films by a father and a daughter. So Ella Janes, who is just graduated high school, has, I think, her third or fourth film in the festival.
Wow.
In the shorts program. And her father is the director of Cricket, which is going to be a feature film. I don't know if it's his first feature as director, but he's produced a lot. Richard Janes, they're big into resourcing the film community here in town with their studio and everything. But this is his film that he is in there, and so it's really cool to be able to program. It's a film set in Oklahoma City. It's about a young 14-year-old girl who's from like a broken home who makes connection with like a church choir, and how that sort of changes her ability to deal with the hardship in her life. It's a really great film, and it's just really cool to have like a father and daughter in the same program.
Yeah, and it features great music. And the actress that plays the young girl played Aretha Franklin in Respect with Jennifer Hudson. So that was also really cool to have her here in the state to make that movie. So
yeah,
I've only heard like stunning things about her performance. So excited.
Yeah. So in terms of, I know there are some other free public activities this year. I know there's always a couple, but I've heard rumors of the Continuum screenings making an appearance at this year's festival. What are some of the public activities, maybe for those listeners we have that may not be able to attend the full festival? What are some of those activities they should be looking for?
Well, we did mention the pajama party, which is, I think that one is one of the free to the public events that we have. Which will be playing Sleepover, which is the classic 2004 film starring Alexa Vega.
Of Spy Kids fame.
Of Spy Kids fame, guys, yes. Anyone, please? No, and that'll be at the Fordson, Oklahoma City from 10 p.m. to midnight. Also, for people who love just being outdoors and experiencing downtown Oklahoma City, we have the On the Lawn party at Scissortail Park, which will be showing the film. This is a film about the Black Keys. Mm-hmm. So if you're a fan of those musicians, you will love to go out there and just kind of get the lawn chairs out and enjoy the summer heat. But it'll be nighttime, so it'll be
the cooling.
It'll be the cooling aspect of the evening.
Many senses of the word.
We're also, I'm told, they're going to be getting a sneak peek of Twisters at that event.
Scissortail Park sounds like it's going to be the place to be, though, on Saturday night.
For sure. Free to the public. Like I said, get your lawn chairs out. It'll be great. It'll be a great time. We love doing like either music documentaries or films that just speak to the outdoors. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so
you can play loud.
You can play really, really loud, and it's just a nice vibe. And it's also like nice alternative programming, for people who aren't able to just go through the motions of the festival with other people. So this is something you can bring anybody to. So that's another one I'd recommend.
I think you said it well, Kevin. It's usually hot and sweaty, and you're running around, and then finally the sun sets. Mm-hmm. And Scissortail Park's a great venue just to like lay out a blanket and
big
just chill.
Open lawn, open space. It's great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I saw Seeds of Greenwood there a couple of years ago. The Thunder Films, and it was a good experience, a good vibe. So definitely recommend. As seasoned festival goers yourselves, what suggestions would you have for listeners when they build your schedule? Because Laron, you said how you don't want to like waste your time by accident and have that mystique to it. So how can people best build their schedules when attending?
I think, well, one, obviously figure out what you're interested in. And then, like I said, like we've done the work for you in terms of the themes and some of the staples, like obviously like comedy, horror. Like if you you like that, then we have those things available to you. So my suggestion would be before the day of, definitely sit down and make a mock-up of what you would like to do, and then give yourself some alternatives, because you may not make it to everything, but anything you go to, we're all proud of. So we know anything that you guys go out and see, you're going to enjoy, so but make an alternative so that you also have other options to do in the event that you don't get into all the things you want to, because they're overlapping for a reason, so that if you can't get into this, you can get into this, so that's one thing. Obviously wear comfortable clothes. It's summer, it's hot. You don't got to be cute unless you got cute shorts, do that, so I think that's one thing too, because we're going to be out in the heat. It is going to be, that is, before you go inside and all these things. So that's just something to be aware of if you're not familiar with Oklahoma summers. So, but yeah, so definitely dress comfy. Then I think, and also the same thing with as we mentioned, like we have parties every evening. So make a plan to catch some movies and also catch some of the parties, because it's get the most of the festival. Don't just see the films. Do a variety of both, because you want to mingle with the filmmakers, you want to mingle with the Oklahoma community to get the best out of the film festival. We curate these things specifically so that people can connect with like-minded people, and so yeah.
Yeah, we talk about it as for this visiting filmmakers, especially that having a summer camp experience. And so there's a certain point where we kind of look at ourselves as the camp counselors, and that goes for the pass holders too. It's like it's kind of a day camp,
missed opportunity. I feel like we got to do that one year where the camp counselor,
just have the cutoff shorts
center, I could do it, and it would speak to my horror movie heart. So
it's true. We could totally do
the Dead Center camp counselors.
Do some kind of immersive camp slasher,
and Jason's just walking around.
Right. And we got what is it? In a Violent Nature coming out here next weekend, which is a Jason knockoff, but not really, because it has a new angle. We can play into it. There's references.
Next year preview.
Yeah, we can cast some people just to be
this is a preview of the preview guys.
They could be fake staff, fake Dead Center staff, and then they just start disappearing or showing up dead, and we have a murder,
or just passing out from heat stroke.
I think we just planned next year's thing. Yeah,
and then you just randomly show up covered in fake blood laying around. Yeah.
Right.
There you go.
You guys are laughing, but I'm serious about this.
Kevin's a toy.
25.
He does that toy with the slasher films.
I can't wait. I can't wait for Friday the 13th, Camp Crystal Lake season of Dead Center. I think we're about out of time today. Is there anything else you'd like to add about this year's Dead Center Film Festival before we wrap up today?
Oh man, get your passes. Get them now. Do it now. And like you said, make a plan. Make a plan for the festival. There's plenty of time between now and then to start, because the lineup is available for everybody now. It's accurate, and so you can actually start building that before you get it. But so I just but please come out. It's one of the best weekends of the year in our state. And so it's definitely worthwhile, and I hope people come out and have a great time.
You actually mentioned a good thing on the lineup. The Eventive is a great resource. Can you kind of tell people how they can access that?
Yeah, if you go to deadcenterfilm.org and go to schedule, you'll be in the schedule
tab,
there, and you'll be able to set up if you have a pass, you'll be able to set up the account and do your schedule on there. But you can also go to your app store of whatever service you use and search for Dead Center, and there'll be an Eventive app, a version of a dedicated app for that, where it'll sync with that website, and you can do your whole schedule. And like Laron said, we probably you can just go star things and basically say here's my two options for the afternoon. That's usually what I would do. For whatever festival I go to, I would it's here's my three things, but I'm not going to decide which one I'm going to go to until the moment's right. And just kind of narrowing it down helps you.
Yeah, so it's not so daunting if you have it all kind of in front of you.
And it has the filter categories.
Yeah,
that
you
really
can filter by
help
location. You can filter by theme. You can filter by pretty much any type of qualifier you want to put on it to help sort it. It'll let you set it up that way to narrow it down.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, download the app, ladies and gentlemen. I will tell you, it has saved me. Whenever I lose my bearings, turn to the app. It never fails. Hey, Kevin, Laron, it's been so much fun chatting with you guys about the festival. Happy Dead Center season.
Yes.
Where can
Happy
people
Dead Center.
Well, where can people keep up with maybe first Dead Center as well, and as well as where people can follow you online throughout the festival?
Yes, you can follow me obviously here at the Cinematropolis. I have a film review column called Real Insights with Laron Chapman. But if you want to follow me on social media, it's under my name. And then find me at the festival, because I'm very friendly, and I'll probably talk your ear off. So if you need something to do in between waiting for movies, I'm your guy.
Just talk about Scream. That's all it takes.
Just talk about Scream. Yeah.
Kevin?
So I'm at Kevin Ely on most of the platforms. I'm not super active on social media, but if you hit me up, I'm there. I'm Kevin Ely on Letterboxd as well. For those film enthusiasts, and also just come if you see me at the festival, come say hi. And I would love to talk to you about movies. I save up all my introvert energy for the first week of June
for these 4 days,
so that I can be real social and talkative. And I would love to talk about movies at the parties. I mean, we love this stuff. So, and we're proud of the program, and we're excited to talk up the films and the filmmakers and maybe introduce you to people who you want to meet,
Yeah, absolutely.
And guys, I just want to reiterate, these programmers are the most approachable people on the planet. They're super cool, super chill, grab a drink, and just just talk and hang out. It's a great time.
Yeah, and also tell us what a great job we're doing. It's just nice to know in the middle, in the thick of it, like no one's talking to us. I wonder if they're enjoying themselves.
You can come talk to me.
Did we do okay?
Did we do okay?
Tell me what a great job Laron's doing.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, congratulations. I say it, congratulations. We've made it to festival season.
Yes,
Best of luck. I'm saying congratulations because there's still a festival for 24, going on 25 next year. Hey Nick, this was our first collaboration.
It was.
Do you want to murder me yet? Do we survive?
No, I think we keep going. We'll save that for maybe the 25 festival.
All right,
the murders and stuff.
We got to
We got the
breed.
theme,
Yeah,
so.
one of you might be the murderer.
Well, hey Nick, where can people keep up with you and the Dead Center podcast and all the great things you're doing online?
Yeah. So basically, Dead Center podcast wherever you stream podcasts at, and we post on the Dead Center Instagram every time there's a new episode. And if you want to check me out, personally, I have Nick Hodge _ Nick Hodge no _ in real life. And yeah.
Awesome, guys. And reiterate, if you're listening to this in the Cinematic Schematic feed for the Cinematropolis, go subscribe to the Dead Center podcast. Laron and I are usually talking about movies and like analyses and diving into it. And we do have a stretch here in Dead Center where I'm interviewing a lot of filmmakers, really focusing kind of like on the storytelling aspects of it. Nick is really getting into like the weeds on the filmmaking. Like how does one make a film? What are the challenges that you have to overcome creatively? What is that doing for you? And what's it like to collaborate with other great filmmakers? So you're doing an amazing job, and I'm very excited to collaborate with you this year at the festival.
Well, thank you. And likewise, everyone listen. I guess if you're on this podcast, keep listening to this podcast.
And if for some reason you're listening somewhere else, you can hit us up at thecinematropolis.com or subscribe to the Cinematic Schematic, wherever your podcasts are found. Nick, take us away. Wrap us up here.
One last reminder, the Dead Center Film Festival is Oklahoma's biggest film festival and is right around the corner, June 6th through 9th. Tickets are on sale now at deadcenterfilm.org.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. Have a happy Dead Center, and we'll see you at the movies.